Hello again. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage and talking to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetrack. Before we even start, like, rate, review, share, please, please, please. We do appreciate that. I am Steve Post, pit road reporter for the Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. I got to go back to Watkins Glen. Beautiful weekend up there. Great racing up there. I mean, all weekend long.
Yeah, it was a beautiful weekend. Spectacular Chamber of Commerce weather to start off with.
Yes.
And everything was good. All right, so we've talked about this round number one since February. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this used to be the base hit round, okay? And you've had your concerns. There's a lot of concerns because there's not many people that have base hitted their way through the first two rounds. There have been a couple solids, though, and at least the one that has had, there's been one team that's had two top 10 finishes. I'm not sure I had Austin Cindric and Brian Wilson as that team, but they have been so solid. I don't know if we had to pick one, I wouldn't have had them.
I agree with you. Although I would say that we're going to two racetracks that I thought they were very suited at.
You're right about that.
When you look at it, I feel like Austin's road course background has been strong. When we were talking about who were going to be the first four out, I didn't have Austin there because I felt like this round set up for him. Plus 43.
They've performed.
They're putting races together and put themselves in a position where they can go to. They still have to focus on it, but they can go to Bristol without being too worried about it. There's others.
Yep, Joey Logano, a win and a 15th place finish. Obviously,
they put themselves there. Daniel Suarez.
At one time, Daniel Suarez is in the gravel trap. A sign of a good team is coming back. 13th place finish after spending time in the gravel trap. Second place at Atlanta. That is a team that they've got two base hits. Mm-hmm. That really do.
They have.
Christopher Bell, 4th and 14th.
And I won't say, much like you talked about Daniel being in the gravel trap and coming back, I wouldn't say that the 20 cars, Watkins Glen was just ho-hum. They were
a mess.
They were a mess in different places, but they just battled their way through it, put themselves in a good spot.
Well, we have some good guys that have accomplished base hits. We've got a couple 20th or worse in both races. Denny Hamlin, Chris Gabehart.
Oof, wouldn't have thought that one.
No. Martin Truex Jr., James Small, 35th and 20th. Harrison Burton and Jeremy Bullins, 31st and 24th. Ironically, with Harrison and Jeremy, it looked a whole lot better at Atlanta until right at the end of that race.
Right.
But they've got some work to do.
Yeah, they do. And coming up to a racetrack that's going to take a lot of it. But I think, you look at it, Denny Hamlin played the numbers game at Atlanta.
Yep.
But they battled all day long. Actually, I thought they made a better day out of Watkins Glen.
Then at what time would it look like? Lap one.
Lap one, they were the backs, and then they ended up 3 wide and backed into the barriers in turn two. They recovered to be all right.
You go to Chris Gabehart and say you're going to stuff it in the fence twice and have all kinds of damage on the race car. Would you take a 23rd? Probably. They probably would. All right. We got a couple of attaboys. Spire Motorsports. It seems like 2 years ago, the attaboys were Trackhouse. Last year, the attaboys were Front Row. This year, the attaboys are Spire Motorsports. All 3 cars in the top 8.
Yes.
Very, very strong.
And their future driver was in the top 10 as well.
That's right.
With Michael McDowell.
McDowell,
you look at it, and got a chance to talk to Doug Duchardt this week and just about what they're building there. And kudos to those guys. They're the Luke Lambert, Carson, Hocevar chemistry is continuing to grow.
Good.
I think they've got a lot of things going on. I think they're in a good trajectory, but a great solid weekend. Zane Smith is actually kind of coming into his own. We've seen that. Really he's put some better races together.
Run at Nashville he's been toward the front of the field on a few times. And the final attaboy was from Saturday afternoon. Andrew Overstreet, crew chief for Junior Motorsports, Connor Zilich. Andrew's been close, and Andrew has been minding the kids and Bubba. Bubba Pollard drove the car, and Carson Quaffle has driven the car, but put Connor Zilich on a road course, and man, that is something special.
It was impressive. And I'm going to go to that point. Andrew is a good friend of mine from way back. We worked together back at MWR in 2010.
Wow.
So he good guy. I think he messed up the call at the end of stage 1. He buried his kid back there, but the kid just drove right back through the front. So, really, really impressive, the speed, the pace they had. And then to be in a fuel mileage situation and put an 18-year-old kid out there that's got to save fuel, he's saving fuel going faster. it was crazy, but he had enough to make it.
The faster is, to me, is the interesting part because they have the telemetry on the pit box.
Yeah.
Listening to the spotter, the message to the driver, I'm like, there's no way they're making it on fuel. We had that red flag, and I climbed up and I talked to Andrew during the MRN coverage, and I'm like, okay, he's got the telemetry. He's seeing what he's doing on fuel. It eased my concerns about their fuel because Andrew had all of that detail and all that knowledge.
And you put it, Ty Gibbs was in a Gibbs car.
Yep.
And did run out of fuel on the same strategy. As Connor did. So kid did a great job. They did a great job and got themselves a great win there this weekend in dominant fashion. But
career first crew chief win for Andrew Overstreet.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Speaking of winners this weekend.
Yes. Speaking of winners, we have got Scott Graves coming up. Chris Buescher, what a thriller that one was. We'll talk to Scott Graves next when we come back here on Crew Call. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Let's do it. Let's go over to RFK Racing. Joining us fresh off from a trip to Victory Lane up at Watkins Glen, crew chief for Chris Buescher, Scott Graves. Hello, Scott. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well. Scott, what was viewing the final lap of that race like from the crew chief's spot? It was spectacular for everybody else. I can't imagine how good it was. What were your thoughts as you watched that last lap unfold?
Pretty stressful. Obviously, the sequence of restarts, just knowing each one gets more difficult as everybody gets a chance to re-rack and think about what they're going to do differently. And yeah, I mean, it's just that roller coaster. You know, you've got the highs of thinking you're going to win easily, to then the restarts, and then you lose the lead, and you're thinking, oh no, it's over. And then I hear the spotter as he was coming up through the S's. I heard the spotter say he's gaining on him, and then it's like everyone perks up again, and you're looking at it, and you see what happened in the bus stop, and then obviously everything's the roller coaster went back up again. Everyone was on a high.
Yeah, definitely an exciting last lap. I mean, really, it was impressive to see you guys earlier in the race. Actually, they stayed out on tires. You came at 37, I think, just before stage 2. But you guys had the pace. You drove back through the field and just you passed your way up to the lead and got yourself there. And you talked about it. You had a 5-second lead with like 10 laps to go or something like that, 12 laps to go. And I thought you were in a good position and the caution comes out. I guess I want to get to the point though. I look back and Brad and I talked about this on the late shift. Next gen era, you've got the lowest average finish of anybody. And that's been documented going through. You guys have been really good at the road course stuff. I feel like this win you've lost your sleeper position, the one that nobody kind of pays attention to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on road courses, Chris has been awesome with this car, and he's been so consistent. We've been really close to the win several times. So to get this one, probably. If there was a sleeper status, I guess it would take that away. It was really good to finally get it because we've been close on the road courses so many times, and to finally get a win, that was one that we definitely wanted to check off.
I want to, but before we get into the nuts and bolts of Watkins Glen and tires and strategy and everything else, I was listening to the teardown with Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck, and they said the phrase they use is Chris Buescher is criminally underrated as a driver. They backed off from criminally, okay, but how good is Chris Buescher? I know you're his crew chief, I know, but it is what is it like working with a guy that has a talent like Chris does?
It's a privilege, you work so hard in this sport, and to get in a position where you have a team like this and a driver like this, to be able to win and, contend for races and win races, it's not an opportunity that everybody gets. So definitely appreciate it and take it as a privilege to be in this spot. And like I say, just, something that hopefully that, we can continue to do going forward. And yeah, I mean, I look at Chris and what's happened with this car. I mean, we've got 5 wins over 3 years, and a lot of people may not that when you step back and think about it. But 5 wins over 3 years is a really good number. When you compare to the best that are out there, that's a pretty good number. So it's something that I know we're really proud of as a team.
Yeah, and his laid back demeanor, I think, plays against understanding that and kind of keeps him that way. But you guys are. You're a contender. You're right there on the bubble this year. Didn't get the win before the playoffs started, but I mean, the closest second place finish ever. The Darlington situation. I know that's tough for you to sit back, but this kind of has to, at least it's a win in the year, and I feel like you've got more opportunities coming forward. But before we get forward, Watkins Glen saw a new tire, saw some course changes. What did you see out of that, and how it affected the race?
So the course change first. Chris felt like that kind of hurt the passing zone there. That you had getting into the bus stop. It's a much higher speed entry now. Although it did. I guess that did come where the pass actually happened at the end of the race. It was from a cause of that. So that did change up the course a little bit. He felt like it took away or reduced a passing zone that used to be there. Mm-hmm. But I think the other part, the tire, probably caught us all by surprise a little bit. I mean, it looked like from practice, and even just some of the previous test data we saw, the tire test that was done there, we expected there was going to be more fall off, and we saw it in practice. It was there, and it looked like there was going to be a good 2 or 3 seconds worth of fall off. And even in the first stage of the race, it was there, which was interesting because there were a couple of cars that were really struggling in that first stage. And that was a short run because there was that early caution and, mm-hmm. Not a very long stage to begin with. And there were guys that were falling pretty hard. And then after that, it just kind of leveled off, whether the fast laps weren't quite as fast. And then we just didn't seem to fall off, too much there. And it really leveled off. And that was something that, I guess you kind of had to take a read as it went to kind of adjust your strategy to what was going on with that.
Do you feel like the racetrack rubbered in? We see that at Dover and some of those concrete places where we get it rubbered in and then the wear would go down and you'd see more leveling to that. Did you feel that? Did you see that in your wears or just not sure where it came from?
I would say that definitely is a part of it. I think when we get in the practice situations or even to fire off a race and the track's clean, that's where you see the really fast laps that guys get to fire off on. And then once the track rubbers up, those fast laps are never there again. And so that seems to, that when you look at your fall off trends, obviously that reduces it. So it's, I definitely think that's part of it. Once you get into the race and the amount of rubber and dirt and things like that are on the track, it definitely affects that fall off curve.
How about the they cut kind of, I want to call it the roadside scallops that make noise for you. They cut those beyond turn 1 and beyond the exit of carousel to try to maybe minimize the advantage of running off of there. What did you guys see out of that?
It seemed like we were still able to use them. I don't know that you didn't want to use them all the time, and it probably took away some of the advantage of turn 1 on a restart. The guys that could really run out wide and throttle up and just get that really big run coming back onto the track in turn 1, it probably way is able to swing out there as wide and make that happen. But you could still use them to an extent. I don't think you wanted to use them every lap just to not abuse the tires, but you could still use them if you needed to.
Scott, we go from one tire uncertainty at Bristol to another tire at Watkins Glen to another tire uncertainty at Bristol. Big picture, what's your thought process? What are you thinking about as we get ready to go up to Bristol this weekend?
I think it's going to be about tire management again. Just looking at the first race, we did the tire test there. Saw a lot of wear at the tire test, and it didn't really look a whole lot different than what we saw at the race, to be honest. And then going back, basically we're going with the same thing. So we're gonna make it exciting, I think. I expect a lot of the same. That it's going to be a lot of tire management. Obviously, I know the sequence in which they're I think they're not going to treat the track at all until after the truck race. They're giving everybody an extra set of tires, extended practice, trying to rubber in the track a little bit, and see if that helps. But I think in the end, there's still going to be some tire management to it. And I know everybody learned from the first race because I think everyone was kind of caught by surprise in the first one, but we all react pretty well as a group, and I imagine everybody's going to get it better, and so just in terms of setup changes and things we do to make it better, we're probably going to stretch out the tire life a little bit, but I expect it to be an issue still.
Without giving the details, I mean, what kinds of things can people get to make the tire longevity?
I mean, you just gotta. Big thing is you just look at the wears. What are you doing to optimize your wear? That's probably the biggest. And then you work on your setups just to try to be easier on tires in any way you can. Ultimately though, you get to a point where it is dictated by the speed you're running. You can get all those things optimized, but if you're going to run fast and you're going to be running, faster lap times, it's going to put more wear on the tire. So, the other part of it's just going to come from the drivers themselves. Like we saw in that first race when they all started to develop, or here's a pace that can make it last, 40 laps, 50 laps. And I think you're going to see a lot of that as well.
And all those things are kind of compromises of longevity to speed. And as you look at it, when will you know which, if the racetrack, I mean, now that we've got the tire test, you've got what, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 cars there trying to put rubber in the racetrack. Could we see that we have high wear in the 45-minute practice session, but still come race time, maybe the track rubber's in because it's a little bit warmer? And how do you adjust to that if that happens?
Yeah, so that's similar to what we've had a lot in the past. Like I'm sure you've seen it. Like you go there and the tire wear will be really high. Like in the past, the left sides would look destroyed after a practice session. You're thinking, "Oh, how's this going to work?" And then you get in the race, and the first run there's a little bit of wear, and then after that, it's like the rest of the night everything's fine. And really, that's I think what we were all expecting in the first race this year. And after that first run, it looked just as bad or worse than practice. And then we all started to get a little concerned, and then it didn't change a whole lot from there. So it can happen. I just, you look at it like we're not really changing anything from the first race. So it's hard to say that it's going to be any different. It's a big question mark, obviously. So to me, we'll know after that first run of the race, like practice, probably wears are going to look high, and I don't know that it's going to tell us a whole lot there. It's really once you get that first run of the race, you get that first set of tires off, and you look at where you're at, and it's either getting better or it's not, and then how you have to adjust from there.
Just fascinating stuff. It really is. We come from Watkins Glen, where you've got a long time to communicate. You've got a long time to your spotter, your crew chief, get onto pit road and that sort of thing. We go to Bristol, where you have no time to communicate. How conscious of that are you? What are the challenges of the noise there, the quick lap times, the quick pit road entering? How conscious are you in that? And is there communication that you guys have prior to a race at Bristol?
It is more difficult for sure. I mean, all the things you just mentioned, the noise, the pace of the laps, and then even just being able to talk to the driver while they're in the middle of side-by-side racing with somebody. It's not like you want to be constantly in their ear, like, "Hey, tell me about your car," when they're trying to pass somebody. So really, like, you gotta, I'm deliberate about the communication or when I do it, or a lot of times I just pass it through Herm, our spotter. And then he knows best, right? I mean, I'll say, "Herm, just give me an update when you can." And, when he's got Chris in a clear spot, he'll say, he'll tell him, "Give us an update." And you definitely need to stay on top of it there because the cautions come fast, and you need to be ready to have a plan and make adjustments if you need to.
Yeah, we don't have the Pocono front straightaway where you can debrief the entire car and race strategy before you get to turn one.
Now, I'll put the disclaimer out to the people that are there with scanners. You got to put both channels in if you want to hear it, because a lot of the communication from the crew chiefs, as you talk about, goes through the spotter at a place like this. When you've got 15, 16-second laps, you got to find a place where they can interject that. Right?
Yep, it's good stuff. Right. That's for sure. Scott, we do appreciate the time. Congratulations on that win Sunday afternoon at Watkins Glen. I love the energy. I love the emotion. I like the little chip on the shoulder. We all know it's playoff time of the year, and it's good to see someone jump up and steal some headlines from those playoff drivers. Glad it was you guys. Congratulations, and thanks for the time here on Crew Call.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
There we go. Scott Graves joining us from RFK Racing. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Always a pleasure. I really enjoy visits with Scott Graves. He's great here on Crew Call. He's really good. You get him at the right minute of the garage area, man. You can really get some volume of good stuff. He's a great guy.
He'll share quite a few nuggets.
Yes, he will.
He's very intelligent, very smart. Done a great job with Chris Buescher, and this pairing's good. But they're both kind of that way. Their demeanor is very kind of soft spoken, not you just don't get a lot out of them both, but they're really good racers. Really good racers,
that is for sure. And when we broke off with Scott, we had just chit chat with him. They could go to Bristol and go back to back really easily.
Won there 2 years ago in this race. So I think RFK has had a pretty good handle on Bristol. So it'll be interesting to see where this whole weekend plays out. Will we see what we saw in the spring? You got to keep in mind that this is the same tire that we ran last fall and had no problems with. The track treatment's different. It's resin, not PJ1, and I think that's part of the changes. It was also cooler in the spring. I don't know if the summer heat changes this race, and I don't know that they'll know it in a 45-minute practice. So tune in and watch it.
Yeah.
You won't know until the end of stage one what we're going to see.
And that's what Scott had alluded to. Can you have 45 minutes of practice session? Can you work yourself down a rabbit hole that you don't need to be worked down? How conscious of that are you, crew chief?
Yes, you can.
You didn't even flinch on that one.
I think if I'm looking at this practice session, 45 minutes, they do get an extra set of practice tires.
Right.
So I'm gonna work on things because I got 45 minutes. I'm gonna work on some things, 2 or 3 things to see what I've got,
right,
and what I can change and what I can work on to find my balance. And then I'm gonna bolt a set of stickers on with say 20 minutes to go, and see if I go make 65, 70 laps. Because you look at it, it's a 16-second lap.
Yeah, so you can click them off.
So you can almost get 4 in a minute. So if I've got 20 minutes, I can run 70 laps.
Yeah.
And that would be my choice. And then what's going to happen is I've laid that perfect plan, and some bozo is going to put it in the wall and cause a caution. It's going to eat up 5 minutes of that, and I'm not going to get that long run. So it's just how you always look at these places.
Bozo is that is such an underrated insult. Bozo is such an underrated one. You got to go back a generation to what Bozo, Bozo stands to us, So fun stuff. It is going to be awesome. Bristol continues with this topsy-turvy round number 1. We're going to eliminate 4 drivers also.
Yeah, and I don't know which 4.
I have no idea.
I really look at it. I feel like if everything goes clean, then you're looking at 4 of the bottom 6 because you're within 6 points of the cut line plus, and then the bottom. I hate to say it. I feel like Harrison's in a really almost a must-win situation.
Yeah.
As you look at it, I almost feel like Martin Truex Jr.'s got it as well, but.
The challenge is that if this thing gets old school tire savings, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, and Martin Truex Jr., there's not many more I would want if we had what we had in the spring.
Right. And I think everybody above Chase Briscoe, the 29 points back, 26 points back and above, they just have to execute and not have problems. But it's so hard to do that here at Bristol.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could see some guys up there that put themselves in jeopardy. But I also think that, there's going to be a lot of scrambling right around that cut line.
Avoid the bozos. That's what you need to do. Avoid the bozos. So Motor Racing Network is going to be at Bristol for Thursday's activities. The ARCA Menard Series, the Bush's Beans 200. That's at 5 o'clock on Thursday. 7:30 on Thursday, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series takes center stage with the UNOH 200 presented by Ohio Logistics. Then we hand the microphones over to our friends at the Performance Racing Network for the Xfinity Series race. Some guy named Dale Jr. is in that race. They're all talking about that.
Who's he?
Yeah, never heard of him.
Yeah. He's got a lot of pressure put on him.
Yes,
he's hopping into the feature winner from last week.
He's hopping into Andrew Overstreet's car. That car won the last time out, that's for sure. And then the Cup Series race on Saturday night. Again, PRN has the coverage. We are grateful that you have joined us here on Crew Call, and we appreciate Scott Graves joining us as well. He's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. Thanks again for joining us this time on Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network.